Welcome back to the West Plains Connection podcast presented by First Interstate Bank in Airway Heights, where we talk with leaders shaping the future of our region and the people who are building our communities and building momentum in Cheney, Medical Lake, and Airway Heights, and the entire West Plains. I'm your host today, Jim Reincke with the West Plains Chamber of Commerce. And today we have a fairly new member to the community, but also new out here to Eastern Washington University. This is Mark Este. He's director of the Office of Community Engagement here at Eastern Washington University. And we're going to be finding out what's going on with this relaunch. It's not a brand new department. It went on a little hiatus. So we'll find out what's happening with their rebuilding and relaunching and EWU's commitment to meaningful reciprocal partnerships between the university and the community. So that means connecting students to real-world experiences, supporting local organizations, and helping shape Cheney and the West Plains into a true college town environment. So we're going to dig into the mission, the programs, the opportunities that are opening up right now for businesses, nonprofits, schools, civic leaders to collaborate with EWU in more powerful ways. Yeah. So hello, Mark, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, go Eags.
Go Eags, yes,
you're learning.
Yeah.
See, I think is that the first test? You have to be able to say go Eags when you hear it?
Go Eags, yes. When you first hear it throws you off because you're like, Eagles? No, just Eags, just Eags. So, that's important. You told me how to properly say Gonzaga, too, so which I'm very thankful for.
There you go. Yeah. It was a learning experience of not being from here also. Yeah. I had to learn how to pronounce the name of that university. Yes. I had to learn how to pronounce Sprague. Yeah. It's not Sprague.
Yeah.
It's
not Spokane. It's not Cheney. It's,
Exactly. Yeah. So we've had this conversation. So he is learning and taking it to heart and truly blending into the community. So, speaking of being from out of town, what led you to Eastern Washington and what drew you to this role specifically?
Yeah, definitely. This is the type of work I've always been involved in, basically since graduating college, has been really working on the community engagement side of higher education. So even farther back than that, I grew up volunteering in my small town in Texas. My parents were super involved in the community. They were both educators. So that's always been something that's been really important to me. And then throughout college, kept that up, but also got really involved in the college experience. So wanted to do that and found out that could be a job. So did 2 years of AmeriCorps in New England and then lived in Boston for a number of years working at nonprofits and universities there, focused on this work, relocated back to Texas during COVID, worked at the University of Texas at Dallas, but wanted a new challenge and wanted a new place. So this job popped up back in about January, I think, of this year. And it was something really exciting and also kind of mysterious because, as you referenced, the office has kind of been on hiatus for a few years. So trying to find information about the office there wasn't much out there. So in my initial interview over Zoom, just finding out that this was an office that had been closed down, as was, in 2021, like many things. But they really wanted to bring it back and really revive it. And so the ability to come to this beautiful region and be a part of this great community, that was a big selling point. But also to really get to engage in this community and get to build something not quite from scratch, but pretty close to scratch. And then have the support of the leadership and the resources to do that, to really make an impact both with our students here on campus, but with our partners out in the community as well. It was for someone like me who's worked in this field for a long time, it was like, let's do this.
So I think you've told me you've had a lot of experience in volunteer coordinating and rallying the troops to get behind causes. So what experiences from your previous work have really helped you shape your approach to the community engagement here?
Yeah, quite a bit. So, I referenced that. So I did 2 years of AmeriCorps service. So for folks that don't know, that's similar to the Peace Corps, but a domestic version of that. So the first year I did that was at two colleges, Riviera University and Daniel Webster College in Nashua, New Hampshire. One of those colleges does not exist anymore. Yeah. So, but one of the things I was brought to do there was really get the students more engaged in the local community of Nashua, New Hampshire. I moved up there from San Antonio, had never been there before, and thought, the folks that go to college there would know more about the town than I did. And I was thoroughly surprised when they didn't even know where Main Street was or things like that, and realizing this is a common thing, that there is a disconnect between colleges and the communities where they reside. So really kind of dug in on that and focused on that for the rest of my career. So at the other institutions that I've been to, like at Northeastern University of Boston, was a very urban environment. We were right in the middle of the city. And there were a lot of stereotypes about the neighborhoods that surrounded the campus, negative stereotypes about the area. So one of our big jobs was breaking down those stereotypes and making sure that students could get into those neighborhoods, and then really having them understand that they may be from all across the globe, but when they're at Northeastern University, they are members of the Boston community, and they're members of the neighborhoods that surround the university. And the best way to get them to really feel that kind of ownership of the areas where they are is through volunteer service and interacting with the local organizations who are addressing the needs of those community. So I was able to build programs there to give students the opportunities to do that. Was able to build partnerships for organizations that had needs that they thought college students could fulfill, because that was a really big piece of it too, is not just throwing students into the community saying, here, go save them, but working collaboratively with the community partners to say, hey, what can we do to assist your mission?
Well, I love that idea of partnering with the community, and I believe I've heard you say before that you've used the term college town, not college in a town.
Yeah.
And so what does that transformation look like for Cheney and EWU and the rest of the regions in the West Plains?
Yeah, and I've used that term a lot. Because I think there's a certain sense of what a college town looks like. When I was in Boston, Boston is a college town because there's so many colleges there. So it's it's a college town, all right, but let's be a good college town. Let's be good neighbors. Most recently, when I worked at the University of Texas at Dallas, it's a growing, blooming university. It's only about 50 years old and is really in suburban Dallas. So it's kind of on almost kind of an island where it is. So building that kind of college town rapport is kind of difficult because it's not like you can walk across the street and go to bars and pubs and stores like that. So that was a little bit difficult. People knew UT Dallas was there, but didn't necessarily connect it with the town of Richardson where it was in. Here in Cheney, I think we have a really, we're really set up for success for that, because if you've been out here, you've been to the university, you've been in the town, there's no divide between the campus and the community that physically exists. We could walk out of this building, walk one block, we'd be in the community, we'd be in one of the great Cheney parks that are here. But it still feels like there is this kind of invisible divide between the campus and the community, even though there's no fence, there's nothing separating the communities. And that may be for a number of reasons. Colleges do a really great job of giving you all the amenities you need, so you don't have to go off campus. You've got all your entertainment here, you've got your social life here, your food, all your basic needs here on campus, because you're paying a lot of money. You want to make sure you have that stuff. But we want to make sure that students realize that they are a part of the community of Cheney. And whether they're from Seattle, they're from India, whether they're from just down the street, we want them to feel like this is a part of who they are, and they are part of this community as well. So for us, what that looks like is we want to see more people engaging in the community, addressing the needs that we have here in this community. We have food insecurity, we have housing insecurity, we have beautiful public resources that need maintenance and support. So getting students out off campus and actually in Cheney and around the surrounding areas to see what's out there, because if they do that, I feel like they'll have a little bit more ownership, and then we'll see, hopefully that will translate to other things. So the pubs in town, the restaurants, the bakeries, the coffee shops, those should be full of Eastern students. And I'm sure they are at certain points, during the time, but you can drive down Main Street here in Cheney, and with the exception of the signs that say Eastern Washington's here, you may just drive through town and maybe not realize that there's this massive university just a few blocks off of Main Street here.
Yeah, getting to spend time in Cheney and having 4 kids of my own who have either been through university here or currently attending. I pick up on little things as well, because I try to look at the communities that I go to from the resident point of view.
Right.
And a couple of things that I've noticed. One, you have I don't know the right terminology, the Eagle dollars, that students can use on campus to buy things that are accepted at local businesses. And I think that's, one fantastic way to get them out and about. Another opportunity that I saw you taking full advantage of, oh gosh, it's been a week ago maybe, I went to the Cheney Merchants Association, or Cheney Members Association meeting, and was just blown away by the community support there, and you being able to get up and give an update on what's going on. You know, beyond those two things, do you have any other initiatives or things that you're working on to try to commingle students?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of what we're doing, obviously we're the university, you know, we're funded through the university, so we're focused on, you know, developing students, utilizing the resources of the university, but we want also to be that collaboration with the community of Cheney that may not be faculty, staff, or students, but are just members of the community. So our hope is that as much as it makes sense or as much as it's possible, if we are hosting service events, that members from the community feel free to come to those. So one example of that will be coming up on December 5th, we will have a Cheney cleanup day. So that'll be 11 to 1 on that day. And that's the same day as Holiday Hoopla, which is one of Cheney's big, you know, premier events. And our hope is that, you know, we can clean up the areas around downtown and around campus, get that nice big trash cleanup, hopefully before all the snow and everything comes. So when people are coming into town to, you know, frequent the stores and everything, they can take a look around and be like, hey, Cheney's kind of a clean, cool town. And then our hope is that our students will then become maybe more aware of Holiday Hoopla. They'll go downtown and participate in some of the activities. But just kind of things like that where we're collaborating with the city and with the community. So that'll be a cool event because it's a partnership between us, the City of Cheney Parks and Rec, the Spokane Regional Waste Ambassadors, and we're getting hot beverages donated by the Mason Jar. So really seeing this like collaborative effort of like, we know this is a big deal for Cheney. How can Eastern students contribute to this big event? And part of it is like, hey, like doing some of the dirty work beforehand before you go have a good time that night. Nice.
And speaking of the Mason Jar, Douglas, if you're watching, or anyone who's going into the Mason Jar, tell them that Mark and Jim sent you from the podcast.
That's true, yes. Yeah, because we go there a lot. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, that particular day, because I don't live in Cheney,
right.
But that particular day I had a noon meeting here and I had an evening meeting here. So I went and hung out at the Mason Jar and had my Mason Jar latte, recommended. Really good, but their menu and everything looks fantastic. And that's just an example of one of the businesses here. And, you know, where I'm trying to lead this into is, you know, I've seen, and I know the region has seen TV commercials now about Eastern Washington University becoming a polytechnic school.
Right.
And I think there are still a lot of people not exactly sure what that means. We are working it out with Dr. McMahon to interview her so that she can describe that in greater detail. But in a nutshell, it's getting students connected with businesses while they're still students.
Yeah, that's part of it. So really, you know, kind of the whole big movement around it. And one of the reasons why our office came back was as part of the strategic plan is really that, you know, we know we're educating students, we're doing a great job of that, but are we adequately preparing them to live in the world? So the whole movement around polytechnic and applied learning is kind of getting back to the core of what higher education is supposed to be. Because, you know, 100 years ago, colleges weren't necessarily go to college, get a job. Like that's part of it for sure. But really what they were doing is they were developing the next generation of citizens, people who were going to engage in the community. They were going to vote, they were going to, you know, help their neighbor out, they were going to serve on city council, serve on a board, you know, be on a chamber of commerce or something like that. And then, you know, as time went on, it became more and more like, hey, go to college because you can get a good job. And that's a big piece of it. We know college is a big investment, so like you want a return on that investment. But I think it moved away from that. We're not developing the next generation of citizens. So in addition to that, and also knowing that, you know, there's more competition for higher ed, the workforce has more competition right now. We want our students coming out not just with a very great degree, but we want them to have some sort of extra experience that students at other universities might not be getting. And what that is, hands-on experience in the field that they want, where they're actually out taking what they're learning in the classroom and applying that out in the community. So that may be doing internships with a local business. It may be doing practicums, clinicals for our students who are, in the medical field. But one big piece of that would be community engagement. So taking what they're learning in the classroom. They may be learning math, they may be math students and, much smarter at math than me for sure. But they're, taking what they're learning and then they're going into one of the local high schools or elementary schools and helping students who are struggling in math and helping them, okay, math, that's great, but how do you explain math to someone where, they're not going to major in it or something like that? So then it's giving them that experience. So when they are applying, to it for a job as an accountant or, a statistician or something, that it's not just, hey, I know how to do this stuff, but I also know how to work with populations who are different from me. I know how to work with people who aren't just experts. Because that can happen a lot in college, especially when you have a specific major. You're only taking classes in that major, so everyone you're interacting with knows what you're talking about all the time. Your professors know everything you're talking about. But when you go out into the real world, that may not happen. You may be the one guy at the job who knows how this works. And you may have to be able to communicate that or get people to relate to it or get people to care about it. So having these actual experiences out in the field, whether it's through community engagement, working for a business, what we're hoping for is that that makes a better, well-rounded student, which then in turn, if they stay in the region, they're benefiting the region because they're using their knowledge in the region. But at the same time, for their own benefit, it's making them more bankable as a future employee, but also a future citizen of the region as well.
I think that hits the nail on the head, at least personally for my family and me. When we made the decision to move to Eastern Washington, we looked first on school districts.
Right.
Where do we want our kids going to school? What is the opportunity for our kids beyond school to be able to stay in the community, to add to the community, and keep their families here because this is where we're planting our seeds.
You're going to be here.
I totally support the whole polytechnic idea of getting students in the community because even if they're not from here, they start forming those bonds of, well, this is home now.
Exactly.
I can stay here. I can see raising a family here and having a fulfilling life.
And it's interesting because a lot, Cheney is an interesting place to be, especially in its position, in the state and the region for that matter, because, it is a smaller town, but, outside of Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, there aren't a lot of large cities in the area. So for a lot of our students, this may be the biggest town they've ever lived in. And, we have students from, Seattle and all across the globe. So for them, it's the smallest town they've ever lived in. So people, like you said, they may have no intention of staying here, but if they're getting great experiences in the classroom through co-curricular activities, there's a little bit more likelihood. If you're traditional 18 to 21, those are the great years. So, that's when a lot of times that's when you're making the best memories. And if they're doing that, having all the fun, but also having an impact that does give them some sort of ownership of the community, then that benefits everyone.
Yeah, well, you say that 18 to 21 are the great years. I'm at a stage now where it's a little older.
I'm actually with you on that. It's the years where maybe you can get away with a lot more, and then you realize later maybe those weren't the best years.
Yeah, except now the toys become way more expensive than they did back then.
Yeah. You have freedom but no money. So,
exactly, especially after sending 4 kids through school.
Yeah.
So, well. If you could tell us a little bit about some of the key programs that you currently have active, such as Aspire or service learning partnerships. What's going on? Yeah,
so Aspire is our signature program right now, and not just because it's our most established program, but it's because it's really effective in what it does. So Aspire is a near-peer mentoring program where undergraduate students from Eastern will go out into high schools all throughout the region and mentor high school students to start thinking about that next step after graduation. And it's not necessarily just like, hey, we're Eastern students, you have to come to Eastern. It's really just thinking like, hey, the clock's ticking, and at a certain point, you're going to be thrown out of the safety net of that K through 12 bubble that you've been in. So what do you want to start doing? And really just getting them to start thinking about the next steps in their sophomore year, so they're not coming to May of their senior year and being like, oh, I got to pick a life and a career now. Which a lot of us, that's kind of how it goes.
That's how it works.
So they're focused on. We have about 15 mentors right now, and they're focused on getting these high school students to start thinking about if they want to go to college. What's that process look like? How do you fill out the FAFSA? what do you look for in a college? Not just the college like what do you want to do, and like what is the college that's best for that? Does going to community college make more sense? Does going to a trade school make more sense? Giving them those options. And also just doing some of those life skills that I think we all, as we get older, we realize no one ever taught us what to look for in a lease. What to put on our resume that when we don't have actual work experience, coming
Right.
out of high school. So they're doing a lot of training with the mentees about that stuff. That's just like, hey, this is going to come up at some point. And also talking to them about, military or other service options that may be interested for them. Again, not to say, hey, come to Eastern. Some of those students do end up at Eastern, and that's great. But really just to have that confidence to be like, hey, when I graduate, I've got a plan. It may not work out, it may go differently, but I'm at least starting to think about that, which is really great. And that program's been around for about 3 years now and predated the Office of Community Engagement. But obviously when our office came on board, we absorbed that program and the staffing there and have continued to run. And we're active in both Cheney High and Medical Lake as well. So we're impacting students here in the West Plains and a number of schools in Spokane as well. In addition to that, a lot of what we're doing is really just developing, going out and meeting with nonprofits and community leaders and developing those partnerships. Because you mentioned service learning, and that's one of the big things that we really want to build out is making sure that we're getting, these service opportunities like I talked about before, where students can take what they're doing in the classroom, apply it in the community, and then be graded on that as well. So it is part of their overall grade. Not just can you pass the test, but can you apply this in the local community. So as of right now, we're still really developing those partnerships and really getting a good assessment on what's been going on at the university already, because we know we have a handful of champions who've been doing this in the absence of an Office of Community Engagement. But the biggest thing for us is making sure that we're responding to the community needs. So that requires going out and meeting with as many local partners as we can, figuring out what they have, and then putting, kind of playing matchmaker, between potential courses or professors that want their students to do that, thinking about different student groups, and what is it that our office can just be like, we can get you 20 bodies, for an event. Like we had a garden cleanup at the EWU community garden this past Friday, which had about 38 people show up to it. It's the first time we've done something like that, and now that group is all jazzed, like, all right, when are we doing the next one? So just kind of doing a lot of trial and error right now, but ultimately making sure we're responding to the needs of the community. So, nonprofits that are thinking, hey, I've never worked with Eastern before. I'd love to have students. I'd love to have professors, whatever. We want to be that. We want to be that kind of one-stop shop that the community can come to us. We may not be the right people on campus, but we'll help get them connected to the right people and figure out how we can, make a partnership work.
So are you finding, you mentioned professors, are you finding that there are professors here who are getting more involved and engaged as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the movement to Polytechnic and the emphasis on applied learning, there are a lot of professors, and myself and a few other folks in student affairs serve on an applied learning work group with a number of faculty from all different departments and colleges at the university. Because I think a lot of these people see the value in it in terms of enhancing their classes, but enhancing the students they're putting out and the impact that has on like the product that Eastern is putting out when it's graduating students into the community. So it's a big change for the university, and change has its challenges. But yeah, there are definitely a number of folks across campus and the leadership of the university as well that says, hey, we want our students engaged, we want them to know what's going on, and we want them to have a little bit more experience going out to the world than their competitors from other schools.
I think that's fantastic that you do have professors who are getting involved, because that continues their education and their learning and them staying connected.
Right.
I know my daughter, the program that she's in, I'm Facebook friends with a couple of her instructors in that department. But I was friends with them before she started school here. But I see them out and about in the community applying their trade and their skills in volunteer situations, as well as monetary situations. Yeah. But it always impressed me to see so many of the professors out there who truly want to be engaged, so that they can learn more of what their students are living.
Exactly, and I think that experiential piece, for me, that's not something that is exclusive to students. I mean, I think similar to what you're saying is that if students see faculty and staff and leadership of the university out in the community, that goes a long way, right? Because
Sure.
it's like, this is the field I want to be in. The leaders of this field are doing this work. Maybe I should maybe I should get a little bit more engaged in my community as well.
Well, speaking of community and businesses who are out there, what makes a strong partnership for the project that you're undertaking?
Yeah, there's a number of factors to it. Ultimately, it starts with us really meeting with the partner and addressing what their needs are. So I think, a partner that has a very clear mission, something they're working on, and maybe it is just like a matter of a lack of monetary resources, a lack of human resources, or just not ever having the capacity to be like, hey, what could you do if you had just 10 random students who came once a week? It's like, oh, well, that opens up all kinds of possibilities. So really first is, the partners identifying that there is a need that the university can respond to. Because we don't want to be the university that says, hey, we're having a service project, community of Cheney, here's 100 volunteers, you are welcome. Because that's not always helpful. And sometimes that is how colleges operate. Because it's like, hey, we took a bunch of pictures on our service day and it looks good and we did good work. But in reality, it's like, we could have done this more collaboratively. So
let me ask you this. So if a business, because a vast majority of the businesses in the West Plains are small businesses, a lot of mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
Some of the owners have been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years or more, and some are brand new to it.
Yeah.
So if one of those owners came to you and said, hey, here's who we are, I don't have any idea how to do this whole Facebooking, LinkedIn thing. Is that an area where you might have, say, marketing students that you could potentially hook them up with?
So and again, like I said, even if we're not the right people, we could help direct them. So for stuff that is for profit, most of that we'd likely direct to the Career Center, which we're part of the same team we report into. To find those sort of opportunities, because that's kind of that experiential learning that we're talking about, where it's like, hey, there is a small business, we've got marketing students, come up with a marketing plan, because that's giving students the experience of like, okay, you've got a client, they have certain needs they want, try to deliver on that. Like, you may not be getting paid for that, you may be getting credit, but if you're going out into marketing, like, that's what your job is going to be.
So that would go through, you would help them direct and get connected with career centers. So what about, say, a nonprofit like the West Plains Chamber of Commerce, who has the ability to do some things, but they don't have the resources, the people power, because they're a small organization.
Right. Yeah, it would be basically a similar thing.
Okay.
Where just coming to us saying like, hey, this is what we want done, and us kind of doing an assessment of the needs that you have and kind of figuring out what is the best route to go for it. So if it was something similar to marketing, be like, okay, do we look at marketing students and the marketing department here, see if there's something there? Do we look at, is there a marketing student group on campus? Are there students where if it's like, hey, we just need someone to update social media, all right, we can find students who know how to do that because they've run their club social media or something like that. It really is just kind of doing an assessment of what the needs are and figuring out where we can plug and play the resources from the university to benefit the partnership. I think to follow up on your other question of like what makes the partnership look great, obviously students are providing their service and time, and that's important. But part of that too is we want the students to develop as well. So if there are service projects where sometimes it could be something like a fundraising campaign where students are just stuffing envelopes. And they may go and for 2 hours stuff envelopes and be like, all I did was stuff envelopes. They may also be like, what's an envelope?
Yeah.
But if they're stuffing envelopes for 2 hours and just be like, oh, it's just busy work they had us do, my service didn't really make an impact. What makes a great partnership, I think, is when a partner explains what the mission of the organization is, but then also like, hey, that letter writing campaign that we do every year, that makes up 40% of our budget. So yeah, it was 2 hours of kind of whatever work, but at the same time, that's going to impact us to where we can operate another year or something like that. And I think when students understand that, it makes it a lot more, tangible of something that they can apply in terms of them thinking about in the future. okay, what do I have professional experience doing? Like, oh, I helped with this fundraising campaign versus I did busy work, for 2 hours or something like that.
So really you're helping connect the students with organizations and businesses of all sizes.
Yeah.
Large ones,
right,
including those smaller ones who might think you need a stamp to send an email.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. So those are pretty practical and involved ways, but
right.
It all starts with coming to talk to you and your team.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to get involved this month, I mean, it's the 13th.
Yes.
So, wow, that puts a time clock on me getting this out now. So it's the 13th. If someone says this month, I want to get involved, I want to see how we can collaborate, what's the first step?
Yeah, so really it's just reaching out to us, and there's a number of ways to do that. The best way is probably through our email, just communityengagement@ewu.edu. We're in 115 Showalter Hall, so on Eastern's campus, it's the first building right by the pillars. We're on the first floor of that, and our door's pretty much always open when we're here. So even just popping in is no problem at all, and just reaching out and setting up a meeting with us, and we'll try to find a time, especially with the holidays coming up, it's a little tough, but it also gets a little bit easier too. It's like there's not as much time, but there's more time because students kind of go away. So just kind of reaching out, and then us kind of figuring out, okay, how can we collaborate and how can we work? Like I said, a lot of what we're doing right now is assessment of both what's going on off campus, but what's going on campus as well. So it may be a while before we get back with a clear plan of like, hey, let's connect you with this. But a lot of what we're doing now is just taking in that information from the community so then we can put it out to the university and say, hey, these are the options. Who wants to go where and do what?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And a little tip for those of you who might come in after you've sent the email, you can park for free at the visitor center right across the parking lot. Just go inside and ask for a pass. They'll get you hooked up. So
College Ave has free parking, but everyone knows that. So it's kind of hard in the middle of the day.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little more difficult. And but it's all free there. So just go check in. No, I think that's fantastic. And you've already mentioned the email address. I'll make sure and get that on the screen as well so that people can see that. And right now, it seems that I've heard you're really focusing on Cheney. Mm-hmm. I mean, why drive past business to go find business?
Right.
So I think that's fantastic that the Cheney neighbors are experiencing that. But just to clarify, if someone watching this wants to reach out, but they live in Airway Heights or they live in Medical Lake or West Spokane or somewhere else, this is still an opportunity available for them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So our focus has obviously been on Cheney because we're right here. We're not. I don't even like to say we're neighbors because that indicates separation. We're roommates, right? We're living in the same place. So there's been a high focus on reestablishing those partnerships here in Cheney. But we know that we have a fairly large university in a fairly small town. So if for some reason we do our job really great and 100% of students want to get engaged in community engagement, we can't sick 100% of our students into Cheney. It just does not have the capacity to host everyone. So yeah, part of the plan is to expand throughout the West Plains and into Spokane as well, because obviously we have the Catalyst building there. But we've already started to do that a little bit. I've met with some of the leaders of the city of Airway Heights, and there's a number of partners we work with in Spokane because it has one of the greatest needs. And what I find really great about Spokane County is a lot of the resources here we're not just focusing on one part of Spokane or something like that. They are serving the entire county, and sometimes it can be easy in a city the size of Spokane to forget there's other towns in the county. But we're here to be like, hey, Cheney's got cool stuff too. You can come out here. It's not that far. But yeah, really establishing those partnerships really all throughout the region is going to be very important to us, because if we're doing our job correctly and more people want to partner with us and more students want to get engaged, we're going to have those opportunities, and we can't do them all here.
No, that's fantastic. And I will vouch that Cheney really is not that far out of the community metro area. I mean, while I live in the valley, don't hold that against me. No, we love the valley. That's where we first landed when we moved here. But I spend most of my waking hours out here in the West Plains.
Exactly.
And just so you know, you do not need a passport to come out to Cheney or the West Plains. Now, if you go north on Division, you might want to take it with you. So
we're here. And,
we're here.
we've got a great commuter, population of students. We've got a big commuter population of faculty and staff as well. So, we're getting out here every day. People can get out here. There's cool stuff in Cheney.
Oh yeah. No, well, as we talked about, I have 2 kids here right now.
Right.
One of them lives here and has lived here full time this is her second school year living here full time. And my youngest commutes. From the valley. I mean, with the buses and driving, it's not hard to get here, and it doesn't take that long.
And if you want to take a double-decker bus, you're going to Cheney.
I saw 2 of them today for the first time as I was coming out. Well, we've talked about the region a little bit and how ultimately you want to be out in the full region, all the way out probably to Coeur d'Alene and beyond. Eventually. But if we were to kind of back up just a little bit, but put on that future forecaster hat, what do you want the West Plains to look like in, say, 5 years because of these partnerships and the growth?
Yeah, the growth I think is a really big piece of it. I mean, we're seeing that in Airway Heights. We're seeing that here in Cheney. So, with that growth comes challenges, right? And I think us as an office, I think we want to position ourselves to be there to help address, those growing pains that come with places that do see a population boom and maybe don't have their resources or infrastructure in place to be like, hey, we increased by 10,000 this year. Wow, we need more bodies to do stuff. So to really be there to help, those partnerships get established. So when there are difficulties, when there are wildfires like there have been before, when there are crises of like food insecurity that's going on right now, that we have all the pieces in place that when things are going great, we're there, but when things are challenging, that we can be there to help work alongside our community partners and just be able to provide the bodies and the resources to help the community thrive and kind of weather the literal and metaphorical storms that may come with it. If you look at some of our other partner campuses in the region, we've worked very closely with Gonzaga and Whitworth and the community colleges and have a really strong relationship with them. They have really strong presences where they are. Gonzaga is really just has a strong foothold in the Logan neighborhood. Whitworth really focuses on West Central, and their presence can be felt when you're around there. So I think what would be really great is if Eastern's presence is felt. So, just like I said, you drive down Main Street in Cheney, you see the signs, Eastern's here, but it'd be great if you saw in Airway Heights, it's like, oh, hey, Cheney, or Eastern's doing something cool here. Out in Medical Lake, oh yeah, Eastern's got a presence here. Just knowing that we are here, we are a resource. So much of the university and academia as a whole can seem very exclusive and prohibitive, because that's the way it operates, and that's how the way it has operated for a long time. But being the region's polytechnic, that language was very pointed. The regions, we are here for the region. We're the public university of Spokane County, and we want to make sure that people know we are here. We're here to educate students. That's our main goal, but we're here to be a resource for our area.
So dare I expand your thought earlier in that we're not just a region with a college. We're a college
region. Yes,
there we go.
I love that. Yeah. As soon as you hit Eastern Washington, you're seeing eagles everywhere.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Maybe I don't know if you've ever driven through South Dakota, but for hundreds of miles you see signs for wall drug. Maybe
I've heard of it. Yes,
okay, so maybe as soon as someone's driving over,
I love it. Yeah,
Snoqualmie, they start seeing signs for Eastern.
In Texas, it's billboards for Buc-ee's. So
Buc-ee's.
The same way. Yeah.
Have yet to experience them. Yeah. So no, that's fantastic, and I truly do appreciate what you and your team. How many people do you have on your team now?
Yeah, so right now we have, in addition to myself, we have 2 full-time staff members, and we have 2 AmeriCorps members. So they're doing a year of service with us, which will wrap up at the end of July, and then hopefully, if all goes well, we'll have another 2 AmeriCorps members next year as well. And they're really focused on the Aspire program, and the rest of us are focused on everything else we're trying to do.
Fantastic. Yeah. So just looking out to that 5-year vision, how many staff members do you have?
Oh, I would love, depending on who's watching, administration. I think it would be really great if we could double in size again if the need was there, and that would just up our capacity, and we could have people focused on specifically on partnerships, have people focused specifically on programming, focused on students, working with faculty, all of those things. But we are in a really good position, and when I came up here to interview back in April, it was still, obviously the office was still just kind of a dream at that point, but they made it really clear, like, you're going to have staff. Because I was like, if it's just me coming up here, it's not going to be successful. Not because of me, just because one-person offices rarely are successful. So they made it very clear, like, yeah, we're going to have staff. So I think, compared to other colleges, we're in a really good position to really thrive here.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I've met some of your other staff and some of your other team. And
Yeah,
they're fantastic.
We have a great team. Yeah.
I mean, you've been given kind of the base to start with, and so not only administration's job, but now it's kind of a proving ground.
Yeah.
So
and
so far you're heading in the right direction.
We're trying. Yeah.
So well, I want to thank you a lot for joining us and the work that you and your team are doing here to build deeper partnerships across the West Plains. I think it's going to be felt for generations, and I think. My opinion, they have the right people in place to launch this and grow it. So I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot. If you represent a business, a nonprofit, a civic group, a school because of Aspire, or simply care about strengthening connection within the region, please reach out to Mark and his team here at the Office of Community Engagement, because they are actively developing the partnerships right now. So you can get involved. As Mark mentioned, you can send an email to communityengagement@ewu.edu, and I'll make sure and get that on the screen and in the notes below as well, or by reaching out to us at the West Plains Chamber of Commerce, and we'd be happy to be of assistance in forming that partnership and that connection and collaboration for you as well. So thanks for tuning in to this edition of the West Plains Connection podcast presented by First Interstate Bank in Airway Heights, and we'll see you soon at the next one.